All right, welcome to the weekly UDDA Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kirshner. As you know, UDDA is the only free-to-play sportsbook and betting platform available wherever you download your favorite apps. Again, when you register for UDDA, we're going to give you free UDDA bucks. If you don't have any promo code, you can get 10,000 UDDA bucks. One of our guests today, Charlie Hill, is going to make sure you get his promo code. So if you use that, we'll double that to 20. UDDA bucks are the currency that you bet with on the UDDA app. And if you acquire enough UDDA bucks, we don't talk about this enough. When you acquire UDDA bucks, and if you acquire enough of them, you get to exchange them for prizes on the UDDA redemption portal, which you can find on UDDA.com. We have some really cool prizes like these hats, some T-shirts, some other great stuff. So let's get to it. Let's introduce our guests from Indiana Wesleyan University. The great Charlie Henry Hill is here. Charlie?
Hello. Happy to be on here. So second time.
Great. And then from the city that never sleeps, the city so nice they named it twice. We're sticking with it, Sam. Sammy the Bull Schwabi.
It's an honor to be here again. A recurring guest. It's been a great sports week, and I'm looking forward to even bigger and better weekend.
Great. All right, boys. This has been a really exciting and interesting summer. There's something really cool about being in the middle of July. Today is literally July 15th, and we're still talking about the NBA Finals. What a game last night. We'll get into the NBA and a whole lot more, but there's been a lot of sports to talk about this summer, and I want to start with a sport that we rarely talk about on this podcast, but it's actually a sport that gamblers really like, and it's actually a great sport to place wagers on, and certainly I love to play it, and that's tennis. Novak Djokovic just won his 20th Grand Slam, and he joins Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer as the only men to ever win 20 Grand Slams. And let's talk about that for a second. These three players who have been playing each other pretty much their entire careers all have 20 Grand Slams. I think the player with the second most Grand Slams is Pete Sampras. I think he has 14. We all remember how great he was. But Novak will be going for the calendar Grand Slam at the U.S. Open next month. So let's just talk a little bit about tennis. Guys, Juan, what do you think? Will Novak get the calendar Grand Slam at the U.S. Open? Let's start there. What do you guys think?
I think he's going to win, honestly, because I think right now in tennis, you have let's say the last remaining goats of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and then you have this new era of Zverev and Medvedev and Cespedes or Shapovalov, and these guys are all 20 to 25 years old. So that new generation hasn't really amounted to real stardom within the game yet. So I think Djokovic will probably hold it down in the U.S. Open.
What do you think? What do you think?
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was just saying he was playing some really great tennis, so I'm gonna have to agree with Sam. I think he's gonna be able to pull it through, and it's gonna be really, really fun to watch. So.
Yeah, I think tennis is so it's fascinating because really ever since Federer came on the scene, you've seen a significant decline in U.S. tennis, but I think just the competitiveness amongst the three of those guys has been just tremendous and really quite historic if you think about it. I mean, think about it, 20 active players who have won 20 Grand Slams each. I mean, that's unheard of. I was trying to look. I don't even remember who the last Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal who won a Grand Slam was. I'd like to go back and look at that. Shame.
Andy Murray.
Yeah.
He won Wimbledon, I think, twice.
In Wimbledon, yeah. I mean, how awesome was that?
Yeah, it's probably 5-6 years.
Other question. Let's talk just quickly about Federer. He's obviously still, top 5, top 6, and you always would give somebody who's in the top 5 or top 6 a chance at winning another Grand Slam. The guy turns 40 next month. Any shot he gets one? Any shot he gets another one?
I think he can definitely pull one out. I mean, he's still playing really, really great tennis even at this age. And it's kind of crazy the amount of guys we're seeing being so old, still winning championships, with Brady being over 40, LeBron being 37, still competing and being one of the best in the game. So, I mean, that age 40 was always such a big thing to look at, and people were like, oh, the end of their career. But some guys are just defining time, and I think he might be able to pull one through.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes without saying that Federer is the best to ever do it. Even though Djokovic and Nadal each have 20, I think Federer is the real GOAT. And I don't think he'll win Australia. I don't think he'll win the U.S. or Australia, but I think Wimbledon, grass court, I think that's his surface. So there'd be one major he can win, would most likely be Wimbledon next year. But I think he can do it, but at the same time, like if he doesn't get Wimbledon next year, then I think there's a good chance that he'll never win again.
I think you make the great point. I think if he's going to win one, it has to be Wimbledon. It'll have to be on grass. I wouldn't count him out. I mean, he's not winning the French, right? Yeah. But I wouldn't count him out at the Australian or at the US, but I think it has to be Wimbledon. And Father Time is still undefeated. Charlie, you make a great point. 40 is like the new 35, but you know, he's had some surgeries. He's got bad knees. I'm not sure. Last question on this, and then we'll move on to another topic. Who's more likely to win a major or a Grand Slam, Roger Federer or Tiger Woods, who will be coming back from injury, we hope, someday down the road? Go ahead, Sam.
I'd probably go with Sam, if you want to
go ahead.
Go ahead,
yeah.
All right. I would probably say Federer. I mean, I think, like you were saying, he's still a top 5 tennis player. He's definitely got a chance to win it anytime he goes out there. So I would take Federer over Woods.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a debate. I mean, it goes without saying that Tiger's health is probably the most important factor in this because, like, he was just in that bad car crash, and hopefully he can return back to the course in full health. And if he does, I think I put him to win a major before Federer does, just because I say, like, Roger's the GOAT, but Tiger's, like, even a step above that because, like, what he does in golf is, like, completely unprecedented. And Federer, as we mentioned before, has 2 main competitors. But, like, if Tiger's not healthy, then I think Federer is more likely to win.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I would like to say it's Tiger. You know, who knows what's going to come back. I mean, if anybody could do it, it's Tiger. But Federer's playing. He's still playing at the top of his game. I'll just go with Federer based on the fact that he's still playing. All right, let's talk baseball. Second half of the season starts tonight. It's Yankees hosting the Red Sox. Yankees-Red Sox, one of the best rivalries in all of sports. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the Home Run Derby. What a show by back-to-back champion Pete Power batter Alonso. I guess my question is, how in God's name was he seeded 5th in that tournament? His odds were as high as 5-1 to win. Hindsight being 2020, but how is that even possible? Trey Mancini, who finished 2nd in the Derby, was listed as 15-1. He was the long shot. The favorite Shohei Ohtani put on a nice show in round 1, but ultimately lost in that round. Yeah. Guys, what did you think of the Derby? I mean, I think it's to me, it's becoming just as they finally figured out the format, and I think it's becoming just as exciting as the actual game itself.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think it also, to add to that, Joey Gallo, who is second highest in terms of odds going to the event, he had by far the worst performance. So, like, the odds makers did not do the best of jobs the other night. But I just think it's really cool. I think it's a great event, and it's kind of funny because a guy like Alonso, who's on the league minimum, I think in his, like, let's say 2-3 years of playing in MLB, his salary is about like $1.4 million, and in 2 years of playing in the Home Run Derby, he's made $2 million. So it's just funny that he's made more money from the Home Run Derby competition than he has from actually being a professional baseball player.
And what's really cool about that too is that last time he won it, he gave a lot of that money away to charity. And you're right, the guys made like $2 million in 6 hours in the 2 Home Run Derbies, and he's made about $1.3 million playing 2.5 years of baseball. It's really crazy. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good point with the odds. Pete Alonso being 5-1. That's pretty crazy because, I mean, you could obviously tell his experience of being in there last year really played like a big role because he just looked so comfortable in there. I mean, every single pitch coming in, I mean, he was seeing the ball so well, and he was just having a good time out there hitting the ball, close to 500 feet all the time. Just like I really think experience plays a big role in that. In like how well he did. So I definitely thought it was pretty crazy with the odds.
I think you hit it on the head too. I mean, he was having just such a good time. I mean, He's made for that event. He loves that event. He was just really enjoying it. All right, let's shift to Yankees Red Sox. We're gonna have a question in the Pick Six segment about this series. Look, Boston has been the biggest surprise in all of baseball, as far as I'm concerned. Them, the San Francisco Giants. There have been a few surprises, but Boston, to me, I think a lot of people had them picked to finish, probably second to last. Nobody really had a lot of expectations out of Baltimore, but this is a huge series for the New York Yankees. They're 8 games out of first, 4.5 games out of the wild card. The trade deadline's in 2 weeks. Sam, I know you're a big Yankees fan. Asking how important this series is kind of silly because we know it's important, but do you think there's any way the Yankees can become sellers at the trade deadline, or do you think this next 14 days is really going to dictate what they decide to do?
Yeah, I think if the Yankees want any chance in terms of the beginning of the season, they need to come hot out of the gate. Like this series against Boston, our main rival in the division, the history, like they just need to show up. And like if they want to compete, then they'll take games from them. But if not, then like the season's a wash. And I just think it's crazy, just taking a step further, that the Red Sox gave away a generational talent in Mookie Betts, yet it looks like they won the trade. So I just think that's insane.
Well, look, I mean, the that's the beauty of baseball, right? You look at like what the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs have three in Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant, three guys. They can get a haul for those guys, and if they don't, they're going to wind up getting a haul for those guys, and that's the beauty of baseball, right? I mean, if you have great talent and they're coming up towards the end of their career, or you just want to kind of retool your farm system, if you go about it the right way, you'll always have a chance to do that. Charlie, who's your team?
I'm a Chicago guy, so I got to roll with the Cubs more than the Sox. So I definitely know what you mean. It's definitely going to be fun to see how that front office handles that with those three moving forward.
Yeah. Speaking of the Sox, I mean, Red Sox obviously are playing great. There are a lot of, really good teams, Houston, Oakland, Tampa. But the White Sox, I mean, you got to put them at the top of the heap right now. They've been playing great ball on the South side. What's so let's Sam, if you were setting a line and you were saying what the percentage, what do you think? Set a line for the Yankees to get into the playoffs right now. You put it like 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, worse than that.
Yeah, I would say probably like kind of like 4-1, 5-1. I mean, like I think it's just the AL East is such a strong division. Like there can be three teams that make it from the division to the playoffs. So like I think the fact that their division is so strong like that really does not help. Yeah. And the players just have not been performing.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't even talk about Toronto. Who's been playing very well as well. All right, let's shift to basketball. We're going to talk about the NBA Finals. Before we do that, I want to talk about the WNBA All-Star Game. Something really interesting took place I read about this morning. I got the article right here. Matthew Metcalf, he's the odds maker at Circa Sports. He is the gentleman who set the line, the original line for the WNBA All-Star Game. He set the over-under of about 250 points. Now, for a WNBA All-Star Game, that doesn't sound like that many. In 2019, the game 255, 2018 was 231, 2017 was 251. So the game always ends around 250 or so points. Now, what he admits that he forgot about is this year the WNBA All-Star were playing USA Basketball, who's about to go to the Olympics. So instead of a traditional All-Star game where nobody plays defense, these USA Basketball All-Stars were treating this as a warm-up game for the Olympics, which literally start in a week. So what's interesting is that the first bet actually came in over the total, but then some really well-known gamblers started pounding the under. And it's believed to be the biggest line movement in the history of Vegas, certainly in the history of the WNBA, I believe in the history of the NBA as well. The line wound up moving over 50 points, right? Mm-hmm. And so the line came all the way down to under 200 points, right? And the total actually came in well below that. So this was one of those gambling anomalies that, smart, sharp sports bettors took great advantage of. And the guy who set the line, these are human, they're human. He's got to set a lot of lines. Typically you see an all-star game, you just go back on the historical scores, didn't take into account who they were playing. But just a really interesting gambling tidbit there, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely wish I was one of those guys who saw that before it came out and happened and slammed the under before the game. But I think it's even crazier that it moved 50 points and it still ended up hitting the under. That's just so crazy to see. So definitely a fun story to talk about.
Yeah. No, it is crazy. And I also find it pretty humorous how the U.S. women's team plays defense in an all-star game, whereas the men's team plays no defense in a real game versus other countries. So that's always funny.
And what's cool too is the WNBA All-Star still actually wound up winning the game. All right, shift gears to the NBA Finals, and then we'll do our Pick Six segment. Great game last night. Giannis is just tremendous. Huge win, even the series. Kind of another really interesting sports wagering story. Milwaukee was favored by 4.5. They wound up covering and won by 6. According to Unpredictable, the Bucks winning percentage, forget about covering percentage, but the Bucks winning percentage heading into the fourth quarter was actually under 25%. And so here's a really interesting tidbit about that game from a gambling perspective. Never led by over 4.5%, by over 4.5 points in the entire game until under 21 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
That's crazy.
Suns then cut it to 3 with under 15 seconds left. So in short, Milwaukee had the spread covered for only about 16 or 17 seconds the entire game and still covered. Like, sports wagering is weird. I mean, that's one of the – I mean, if you had and look, I took Milwaukee. I won the bet. I'm very happy. The right handicap in that bet was clearly the Phoenix Suns. But sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you get unlucky, and that's just part of what we do, Sam.
Yeah. No, I'm well aware. I was unfortunately on the other side of that bet. I was on the Suns with the spread, and it was just a sloppy game. You know, they just kept turning the ball over. I thought the officiating could have been a little better, but I never like to blame the outcome on the officials. But it's kind of like where I was at, and I think Game 5. I think Game 5 is going to be incredibly interesting because I think that's going to be the game where we see are the Bucks legit or not, going into Phoenix after taking 2 games. So I think whoever wins Game 5, I think is going to win the series in 6. I don't think it's going to 7.
Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I mean, if you had told me before the game, I sadly was also on the Suns side for this game. But if you had told me that Devin Booker was going to have over 40 points, I'm pretty sure I would have stayed slamming the Suns money line. But Chris Paul obviously didn't really show up in that game. And then it was just really a kind of a meltdown by the Suns in that fourth quarter. I'm pretty sure the last 5 minutes, Bucks outscored them 19-8. And I really think that Milwaukee home crowd probably played a huge factor in that as well. I mean, that place gets really crazy. So I think that helped in the fourth quarter. And it was definitely a fun game to watch, but stung a little bit being on the Suns side. So
it was definitely a fun. If you're a Milwaukee fan, fun game. That Booker no call in the fourth quarter was just one of the most atrocious NBA no. I mean, the officiating in that game was not great. I think if anything, it helped. It should have helped Phoenix, but it was not a well officiated game, and hopefully they can get that straightened up. All right, let's do the pick 6, an extra point. I'm coming off a win. Last time we did this, Jordan Stein was with us. Jordan and Sam both got 3 correct. I got 4 correct, including the extra point. That made me the winner last week. What I'm doing this week is generally on the extra point. I've always played. I've always done the Price is Right, where I try and block somebody out. I actually have my number written down, so I'm going to stick with my number this time. I think that's a more fair way to do it. So, although I like my advantage of being the host. So, all right, let's get to it. Question number 1, NBA Finals. We just talked about it. Now at 1. Usually what we try and do with these is we try and do questions that'll be answered by Sunday, no later than Monday. This question may not get answered until a week from today. But here's my question. Series is tied at 1. Going back to Phoenix, Game 5 and Game 7 will be in Phoenix. Game 6 in Milwaukee. Here's my question. How many more NBA Finals games will the Milwaukee Bucks win? Charlie, lead us off.
I mean, if you had told me before the series, you asked me the same question, I honestly would have given the Suns winning in 5 or definitely 6. But I think with the way Milwaukee's played the last 2 games, it's kind of changed up, my thinking. And I think the Bucks will win 1 more. And I honestly think that the Suns will win this in 7. I didn't think the series was going to go to 7, but I think this has been a really good series, and I can see it going to 7. I think the Suns will take it.
Sam?
I think 0. I think
it's over.
I think it's over. I mean, assuming Chris Paul does not play atrocious like he did last night and he's healthy, Aiden stays out of foul trouble, the Suns offense can get cooking a little bit, I think it's their series.
All right, this is fascinating because I'm going to say 2. I think Milwaukee finds a way. They played look, arguably they didn't play well in Game 1 and 2. They did not play well last night, still figured out a way to win. Phoenix, you can make the argument that they've actually played worse in each game this series. We're due for a classic, right? We're due for a game that's going to come down to a buzzer beater. I'm hoping that's Game 5. I think they're going to find a way. So I think this is the first time in the history of the Pick 6 segment in a question that has 3 potential answers that we have 3 different answers. So that's great. All right, question 2. Speaking of Game 5 Saturday night, early lines out. It's Phoenix -4. Phoenix favored by 4. Sam, who covers?
I think the Suns do. I think they just made Phoenix their fortress. I feel like they're just a completely different team there. And I I think they win. I think they cover. I think they get that Suns and even though it's gonna be Suns and 6, Suns and 4 energy back, and I think they'll be back.
I love the Suns and 4 guy. That guy's a legend. Charlie, what do you think?
I'm taking the same thing. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Going back to Phoenix, that crowd is crazy. I think they're going to be pretty upset with losing that last game, and I feel like Phoenix is going to come out and definitely win by at least 4. So,
yeah, I'm going to take the opposite side of this one. Look, there's a coin flip in my opinion. I do think we're due for a classic, a game where some team's going to be holding the ball with under 20 seconds to go with a chance to either take the lead or tie the game. Or I think we're due for a game that comes in within the number. I believe, I'm certain, I'm positive that the home team has covered the spread in games 1 through 4. I could see Milwaukee keeping it within 4 in game 5. I'm not saying they win the game, but I'm saying they can keep it within the number. Yeah. All right. Let's stick with the NBA Finals. Let's take a different angle. All right. Let's talk TV ratings. Are you guys familiar with TV ratings? Do you want me to give a quick tutorial? I'll give a quick tutorial for the folks at home. TV ratings, it's not everybody's heard of them. It's not all that complex. It's literally the rating is the percentage of the number of TV households that are watching a game in the United States. So there are somewhere, give or take, around 120 million television households in the United States. So if you get a 5 rating, that means 5% of those households are watching that program at the time. Historically, the Super Bowl is the highest rated television program of the year. Interestingly, NBC's Sunday Night Football is the highest rated regularly scheduled television program every year. It has been for the last 10 years. So let's talk about NBA ratings. The ratings are down. They were way down last year's finals in the short bubble season. The Game 5 rating in last year's NBA finals was only a 4.8. But if you go back to 2019, the Game 5 rating was a respectable 10.6, considering one of those teams was not an American team. You had Toronto in there, and ratings don't count Canada. So this year, let's set an over-under line. I'm going to set it. Let's split the difference between the 10.6 rating in 2019 and the 4.8 rating in 2020. That makes an over-under of 7.7. So will the rating for Game 5 be over or under 7.7? Charlie, go ahead.
I feel like I got to take the over for this. I mean, you were hyping up Game 5 so much that it's going to be a classic, and I agree too. I mean, I think this is going to be a really good game. I feel like a lot of people are really into this series, especially after Milwaukee taking 2 games. So there's a lot of hype surrounding this, and I think there's going to be a lot of people tuning in. So I'll take the over with the ratings.
Sam, did you say huts? Did you say huts? That's a good industry term. Go ahead, Sam.
So I'm actually gonna go with the under here. I think I think it's kind of the thing that's gonna be a Saturday night. I think people already have some plans. And if you ask me, I do not think these are like the 2 best teams in the NBA. Like, yes, like they both got hot at the right time and they're in the finals. So like, congrats to both of them. But like, I think like the Nets, Lakers, like that has that marketing appeal. That has like that nationwide casual sports fan appeal. But like this, like you're only really watching if you love the NBA, if you like betting, if you're from Phoenix or you're from Milwaukee. Like I think most people will be enjoying their summer Saturday.
You hit it on the head. You're exactly right. From an enjoyability standpoint, I think the rating should be through the roof. But look, there's a reason why networks don't put out any new television shows in the middle of the summer, because nobody watches TV in the middle of the summer. People are out and about, they're barbecuing, they have plans. You also said 2 small market teams. Look, these are 2 great markets. I love Milwaukee. I've got family in Wisconsin. They're over the moon with what the Bucks are doing. I love this Bucks team. I think the Suns have they've been the best team during the playoffs. This is a great matchup, but 7.7, it's just too high. Saturday night, middle of July. I'm gonna go under. Although I think it's slightly under. So we'll see. All right, let's move to baseball. We talked about Yankees, Red Sox, and the Bronx 4 games starting tonight. It's the only game on the MLB schedule today. So should be speaking of ratings, that should get some nice ratings tonight. Again, Yankees 8 games out of first, 4.5 out of the wild card. This is a really important couple of weeks for the Yankees. So here's the question. How many games, it's a 4-game series, how many games will the Yankees win in the Bronx? Sam, go ahead.
I think they're going to split. I think it'll be 2-2. I mean, I don't even know the pitching matchups, but just for the Yankees, it doesn't really matter. But I think they'll come out hot. They'll win tonight. Probably lose tomorrow. Maybe take Saturday, lose Sunday. I'm thinking they split.
Charlie?
Yeah, I had it written down that they're splitting too. So, but I'm playing it safe. I feel like two great baseball teams playing each other. I mean, it's a big rivalry. So, I feel like it's going to come down to a split.
Yeah, I have two also. I'll stick with the number I have. I kind of want to go against the grain against you guys, but I'll stick with my two. Boston did kind of limp into the All-Star break. They lost 4 of 5. Yankees, you thought they were going to get hot, and then they lost that heartbreaker on Sunday in Houston. That said, Boston's owned the Yankees this year. They're 7-0 against the Yankees this year. They're not going to, trust me, they're not going to be 11-0 by the time this series is over. I'll stick with my two. All right, another good series. NL Central leading Milwaukee Brewers head to Cincinnati to take on the Reds. This is a 3-game series. This question, how many games will the Reds take from the Brew Crew? Charlie?
I'm only going to give the Reds 1. I know it's in Cincinnati, but I feel like the Brewers are going to come in. Another good division with the NL Central, but I feel like the Reds are going to only take 1. The Brewers are going to win that series.
Sam?
I think the Brewers sweep. I think the Brewers I think they're going to take the division. I think they have the workings of a magical season. I mean, for their standards at least. And I like this Brewers team. I think it's very exciting what they have going on there. And I think they're, in sports terms, you call them a wagon. I think the Brewers are a wagon this season. I really just like it.
Look, I like that pick. I'm with Charlie. I'm going to say 1. Reds just took 3 of 4 from Milwaukee in Milwaukee. I think the Crew come back, return the favor. They'll take 2 of 3. So I'll go with 1. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left. British Open, Royal St. George's. They seem to host it every 10 years or so. Always a good place to watch golf. We know that we're recording this after the first round has actually already been complete. But I already gave you the question. So I'll give you the top 6 golfers: Rahm, DeChambeau, Johnson, McIlroy, Schauffele, and Koepka. Or you could take the field. Sam?
I mean, personally speaking, I definitely side with Brooks Koepka. He's probably my favorite golfer on the tour. But for the purposes of this wager, I think I'm going to go with the field. There's some guys that I really like out there. Like, I like Morikawa, I like Spieth, I like Matsuyama, and it's also interesting because traditionally speaking, the PGA Tour is played in the U.S. and this is links golf. It's completely different course layout. So I don't think it's fully there definitely are some common denominators, but I don't think it's fully transferable. So I'm gonna go with the field.
Charlie, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to go with the field as well too. Like you said, we're recording after the first round has been played, and it's not looking terrible for the top 6, but it's not looking good either. So I'm gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna go with the field. Yeah,
we're taking the field. There are a couple of golfers that I mentioned there that are in contention that can certainly make it interesting. This is not a no-brainer by any means, but I'll go with you guys. All right, here's the extra point. Real simple. Sticking with golf. The winning score of this year's British Open will be, give it to me against par. So give it to me in plus or minus. And Charlie, you're our ambassador, so I'll let you go first.
All right, so I'm pretty sure where they're playing it's a little different. I'm pretty sure it's 70 for a round is par there, so a little lower. They played a really good first round today. So I'll go. I had it written down, my number, but I'm pretty sure it's -12. So I'll go -12 with their score. So,
Sam?
I was thinking more towards -15.
What's interesting? When I first saw the opening round scores of -6, I was with you guys. And I was saying, all right, it's not going to be 24 under. But I think there's going to be some scores. Look, this is link style golf. The first round of a British Open it's generally the easiest if there's no weather. There wasn't any weather. This course is going to get harder. Interesting stat. The last time the Open was played here, the first round leader was sitting at -5. So it was -5 after the first round. The final score, the winning final score of that year's British Open, also -5. Wow. So the scores did not drop. There's a couple of guys I think at -6, but the rest of the field is right around -2. So I'm not going to go as aggressive as you. I think it's going to stick right around -6. I have -7. So we have some good spread there. It's closest to. So I think there actually is a potential for a tie in this one. So we'll see what happens. But gentlemen, hey, another great podcast. Really appreciate you joining us. Again, check out UDDA. Download UDDA wherever you download your apps. It's a lot of fun. We have all sorts of great contests coming up. We're going to start talking about football and our plans around the NFL season soon. So that's just right around the corner. That'll be really exciting. And guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy watching the NBA Finals. Enjoy the golf. Enjoy the baseball. And most importantly, enjoy hanging out with friends and family and enjoy your summer. Really appreciate you guys joining.
Appreciate that.
Same to you.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Everyone.